So the preseason top 25 poll for the 2025 season has now been released, and I thought it was pretty interesting. No, I don't think it was all that ridiculous, but in today's video, we're going to react to the top 25 poll, and I'm going to go through my thoughts on each of these teams, and if I think they were ranked properly. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the AP Top 25 poll. So coming in at number 25 is the Boise State Broncos. They lose their near Heisman winner in Ashton Jeanty, but they still have a pretty good team. They're considered probably the best Group of 5 program for the 2025 season as they return their starting quarterback, got a couple of decent transfers, and have a schedule that should allow them to probably win 10 plus games. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be ranked in the top 25, and it was probably a good pick. Also though, I want to look at the teams that were receiving votes, as BYU, Utah, Baylor, Louisville, USC, Georgia Tech, Mizzou, and Tulane were the first few teams that were not ranked, and I would say I would probably have Baylor ranked, but other than that, it was fine. At number 24, you'll have the Tennessee Volunteers, who ended up making the college football playoff last season. Unfortunately, they lost a lot from last year, as they lost their top receivers, their top running back, and their quarterback, as Nico ended up going over to UCLA. I'm definitely a little bit concerned about some of their skill players, but they bring in Joey Aguilar, who is a multi-year starter at App State, and Josh Heupel has proven that he should get the benefit of the doubt, so Tennessee being ranked is alright, but I'm not quite sure if they'll be there at the end of the season. At number 23, we have the Texas Tech Red Raiders, as they were one of those teams last year that was sort of stuck in that cluster fighting for the Big 12 title, and this year they brought in a really good transfer portal class, and they also returned one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 in Baron Morton. I really like Texas Tech, but I would have probably put Baylor ahead of them, but for now it's not that ridiculous, and the Red Raiders should have a good year. Coming in at number 22, we have the Iowa State Cyclone. They've been really good under Matt Campbell, and last year they were in the driver's seat to win the Big 12, but they ended up losing in the championship game to Arizona State. They returned their star quarterback in Rocco Becht, and Matt Campbell always has a really good system in defense, so I think they will be near the top of the Big 12, and being ranked at 22 does make sense. At number 21, we have the Ole Miss Rebels. Like Tennessee, the Rebels lost a lot of their skill players last year, as their top 3 receivers are now gone, and their superstar quarterback Jackson Dart is now in the NFL as well. They're banking on the 19-year-old Austin Simmons to be their new quarterback. They're hoping a couple transfers step up at the receiver spot and that the defense can reload. Ultimately, I like Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, but I think they're going to fall off a bit this year and will not be as good. And while I would have them probably ranked in the preseason poll, I don't think they will finish there. Coming in at number 20, we have the Indiana Hoosiers. Last year, they broke out in year 1 under head coach Curt Cignetti and literally had their best season ever. They did kind of play a bad schedule, but ultimately they did exactly what they were supposed to do and made the college football playoff and lost to Notre Dame. Indiana actually brings back most of those key pieces from last year, got a couple of good transfers, and retained most of their coaching staff, so they should be pretty decent, and they also have a pretty favorable schedule, so ranking them at number 20 makes sense, and that's about where I think they'll finish. At number 19, we have the Texas A&M Aggies, who are now in year 2 under Mike Elko. They're definitely pretty solid in year 1, but I'm not quite sure how good they're going to be this year. They're expecting Marcel Reed to step up and become one of the top quarterbacks in the nation, but I'm pretty indifferent on Texas A&M and think they will probably finish with 7 or 8 wins. I don't know if they'll be ranked at the end of the year, but I'm not opposed to them being ranked right now. At number 18, we have one of the more controversial teams on the list, and that is the Oklahoma Sooners. Despite Brent Venables being on the hot seat, most people believe that Oklahoma is going to have a really good season. They ended up not doing well in their first year in the SEC, but they brought in Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator from Washington State. They got John Mateer and a guy like Jaden Ott. Plus, they'll have a healthy receiving core, so Oklahoma should be back to where they used to be, and I think they'll end up finishing the year even higher than number 18, but for now the only reason they are ranked is because of hype. At number 17, we have the Kansas State Wildcats, who also are in an interesting spot. They were one of those teams fighting for the Big 12 title last year, and they will be doing the same thing this year. K-State fans are hoping that Avery Johnson takes the next step and becomes the best quarterback in the conference, and I think he is the it factor for them. If he's as good as advertised, then I think K-State will be really good, but if he struggles, they will also struggle. Either way though, Chris Klieman is pretty consistent, and we know at minimum they'll probably win 7 or 8 games. Ranked ahead of Kansas State is the SMU Mustangs. After buying their way into the ACC Conference from the American, SMU had a tremendous first year in which they got all the way to the ACC title game and lost by way of a crazy field goal to Clemson. SMU still qualified for the college football playoff, and while they got the brakes beat off of them by Penn State in the first round, they returned some key players from last year, and it looks like SMU will probably still be pretty solid. Ultimately, I think they're only going to win maybe 8 or 9 games, so I don't know if they'll finish the year ranked, but for now it makes sense that they are ranked because they did make the playoff last year. At number 15, we have another SEC team that is just purely here because of hype, and that will be the Florida Gators. Billy Napier, like Brent Venables, is also on the hot seat and absolutely needs to win this year, and it seems like he'll have the pieces to do so. He returns his star quarterback in DJ Lagway, but no one really knows if he's hurt or not. There's a lot of rumors swirling about him, but if Lagway plays, Florida has a chance to be pretty good this year, but they also have a ridiculously tough schedule, so I don't really know where they finish. Right in front of the Gators are the Michigan Wolverines. Just like Florida, they finished the 2024 season on a hot streak as Michigan beat both Alabama and Ohio State to close out the season, and now the Wolverines bring in one of the most highly anticipated freshman quarterbacks ever in Bryce Underwood. They got a good transfer running back in Justice Haynes and have one of the top defenses in the nation. Michigan, I think, will definitely bounce back in year 2 under Sherrone Moore, and I think they have a chance at winning 10 games. I don't know if they'll make the college football playoff, but Michigan definitely deserves to be ranked. Shane Beamer has done a tremendous job rebuilding the South Carolina Gamecocks program, and that's why they're preseason ranked number 13. They're led by the most exciting quarterback in the SEC in Lenoris Sellers. They have one of the craziest wide receivers in Nick Harbor, and they have a tremendous defensive line. They also have a good culture and finished last season on a hot streak as well, so that's why South Carolina has a ton of hype, but they also have a pretty difficult schedule, and I'm not sure if they're going to end up at number 13 by the time the season ends. I gotta be honest, I don't really know why Illinois is ranked number 12 in the country, as besides returning Luke Altmaier, I don't really know what all the buzz is about. They lost both Josh McCray and Pat Bryant Jr., but I guess people are just banking on Brett Bielema having a good system. I didn't think that Illinois was all that impressive last year, but maybe they will prove me wrong this year and win the Big Ten or something. For now, I think 12 was a little bit high, and they should have probably been ranked in the 20s, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. A couple years ago, Kenny Dillingham was the youngest Power 4 coach, and in just year 2, he got Arizona State all the way to the college football playoff. This was led by Cam Scadaboo, their wide receiver Jordan Tyson, and star quarterback Sam Leavitt. They ended up winning the Big 12 and almost beat Texas, but they unfortunately fell short. They bring back both Tyson and Leavitt, plus a really good culture that Dillingham is building, so that's why they're predicted to win the Big 12. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to pick them to go back to the college football playoff, but Arizona State should win 9 or 10 games in my eyes. As we break into the top 10, the Miami Hurricanes are the first one. They'll have a new quarterback in Carson Beck, as they have to replace number 1 overall pick Cam Ward, but Miami also has a pretty weak schedule. They got some good players in the portal, and I think they probably are the second best team in the ACC behind Clemson. I think 10 is a fine spot for them, and I think they'll end up in the playoff when it's all said and done. At number 9, we have the LSU Tigers, who are led by their star quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Brian Kelly is sort of in win-now mode at LSU, and after a tremendous start last year, they sort of fell off in the month of November. They should be reloading at some of the skill player spots, the defense should get better, and Nussmeier should get better, so I think LSU being in the top 10 is justified, but I still don't know if I'm going to pick them to make the college football playoff yet. Ranked in front of them are the Alabama Crimson Tide, and it's definitely interesting. I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, and bringing back Ryan Grubb was definitely a super underrated hire. I don't know if Ty Simpson is really all that good. Who do they have at receiver besides Ryan Williams? And can they get through their difficult schedule? I still think Bama probably wins at least 9 games, but Kalen DeBoer needs to prove me wrong and show that Alabama actually deserves to be ranked inside the top 10. At number 7, we have the Oregon Ducks, who are obviously led by Dan Lanning and are coming off a disappointing college football playoff exit. After being undefeated and winning the Big Ten, they got skull-crushed by Ohio State, and now they have to rebuild the team. They'll have a new quarterback in Dante Moore, Mekhi Hughes will take over at the running back spot, but after they lost Evan Stewart to an injury, I'm not sure who's going to catch passes for Oregon. They have a good offensive line though, an excellent defense, and a good culture, so I expect Oregon to be near the top, but they definitely have some pieces that need to prove themselves. Coming in at number 6, we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. After having the worst loss in school history at home to Northern Illinois, Notre Dame completely bounced back and made it all the way to the national championship game. They bring back one of the key pieces from last year's team in Jeremiah Love, who's the best running back in college football, and I think they'll do exactly what they did last year. They'll run the ball a lot and control the game, and new quarterback CJ Carr I think will be pretty solid, so I think it's justified that Notre Dame is ranked number 6, and I think they will end up in the college football playoff once again. At number 5, we have the Georgia Bulldogs, who are always consistently ranked here. They'll have a new quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, some new running backs, and some new receivers. The defense will be good as usual, and I think Georgia will be really difficult to beat, and they're currently my pick to win the SEC. Gunnar Stockton might be a little bit questionable right now, but I think after having a full year to now develop and get used to the system, he will probably be pretty good, and Georgia does deserve the benefit of the doubt in my opinion. At number 4, we have the Clemson Tigers, and I'm extremely high on them as well. A few years ago, Dabo Swinney consistently had the Tigers here, but after a couple of down seasons, people sort of forgot about him. They bring back Cade Klubnik, who might be one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. They have one of the most loaded defenses. They have the best wide receiver core, and I think overall they are just in a really good spot. They don't do a lot of the whole transfer portal stuff, so they definitely play as a unit. They have a fairly easy schedule, and will definitely be able to build upon making the playoff last year. I'm picking Clemson to go to the national championship this year, and I hope they don't let me down. At number 3, we have the defending national champions in the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State is pretty much going to be good no matter what, but their biggest question mark by far is going to be at the quarterback spot. Julian Sayin was a 5-star prodigy coming out of high school, but until he steps on the field, we don't know how good he will be. I assume he'll be pretty solid, and if not, their loaded receiver room will bail him out, and they also have good running backs and a good defense, so Ohio State will be perfectly fine, but they might end up finishing second in the conference behind the team ranked at number 2 in the Penn State Nittany Lions. Pretty much every year, Penn State gets super hyped up, and last season they sort of finally delivered on the hype. Sure, they had a couple of close scares last year against teams like Bowling Green and Minnesota, but Penn State ultimately got to the Big Ten title game and won a couple of games in the playoff, so they sort of legitimized themselves. They bring back Drew Aller, they bring back their top 2 running backs, got some good receivers in the portal, have a good offensive line and a good defense, so if there's ever a year for Penn State to actually make a run and win a title, I do think it's this season, but we'll just have to wait and see. Penn State usually has a lot of hype and they don't deliver, but maybe this time they will. And finally, coming in at number 1 for the first time in school history, the Texas Longhorns claim the top spot. Admittedly, I disagree with this, as Texas lost so many players to the NFL last year, I find it kind of ludicrous that they're ranked number 1. Sure, they have Arch Manning, but he really hasn't started a game. They have to find a whole new receiver core, have to replace pretty much the entire defense, and rebuild the offensive line. And while I think Coach Sark will probably be successful at it, I don't know if it's justified having them ranked at number 1. I personally picked them to go 9-3 this year. Maybe I will be completely dead wrong. I hope they're not ranked number 1 just because of Arch Manning, but it wouldn't surprise me if they are. So yeah, today we reacted to the top 25 teams, and I gave my thoughts on each of them. And what do you guys think? Which team was ranked too high? Which team was ranked too low? Who's overrated? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you didn't support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.